Welcome to Viola class. This is my one class of the summer. My name is Richard O'Neill, and it's a great honor to be here. As a student in 1998 and 99, under President David Keene, who's in the back, one of the great parts of the Music Academy is this format, the Masterclass, public Masterclass. It's very daunting in a way to stand here because I guess I'm in part of a history that has included people like Lotte Lehmann, Marilyn, Horne, Jones, these great musical minds that have given a real performance education sort of class and have integrated this very much into the fabric of Santa Barbara. It's very lovely to see all of the familiar faces. And I think it is it's a win-win situation. Not only do you get to hear some of these great young talents, but you get to hear me sort of just go off and start talking about nonsense. I think it's an invaluable performance opportunity for all of the fellows. So thank you for your support of all these wonderful events. Today we have some Bach, Schumann, and Milhaud. So please welcome Ben. I'm sorry to stop you, but let's start working. And if you have time, maybe we can start off. So since you have this wonderful audience in front of you and your fellow classmates here, what does it feel like starting a Bach Prelude? Just be honest. Tell them what are you experiencing?
A little bit intimidating.
Why?
Because at least when you're playing something like a sonata or something, it's like you at least have the camaraderie of having a pianist with you, but playing Bach, it's you and you only. And you're creating all of the music. And so walking out, just starting that is a little bit, I feel like it's a little hard to get the wheels turning.
So getting momentum is daunting. How does it manifest? What do you think, you personally, what does it do to your playing, since you know you're playing the best? How do you think it affects what's different between here and what happens in the practice room? Let's even say in a lesson with Lady or Cindy or Dawn. Well, how's it different?
It was more tense, and I feel like I wasn't producing sound the way I wanted to. Even like the intention was there, but it wasn't happening the way that I wanted.
It's the trick, it's the high wire act. This is one of the joys of live performances. You don't really get, second chances. We don't get in modern day living. We can redo so many things, and you can plan, and you can edit and live in that world. But this is high stakes. It's what it is. Once the ball starts rolling, it keeps on going until the end, hopefully. There are instances where the ball does stop rolling. I hopefully not been in too many of those, but I mean, as a recreator, our job is to recreate in real time. The music is captured. J.S. Bach wrote it in Curtin a long time ago, but it's still just as valid today. And our job is to get inside of it and be it and live it in front of people. It's this interesting, and in my opinion, this most wonderful thing we have. It's a communion or something between audience and performer and Bach. Just a few practical things. Don't keep your mute on if you're not. I know this is a very indicative of the students here, but there's with the orchestra, mute, it was kind of buzzing and rattling, and you were fiddling with it. So maybe don't keep the mute on. You don't need it. Don't put it in your pocket and forget it's there either. So you're in an orchestra and then you don't have it. But just, you might not want to have the mute on because it was sort of buzzing. Are you aware of your feet?
Yes. That's something that only happens when I perform. I have no idea why.
Was the audience aware of the feet? Yes, it was funny because the first was on the fourth beat of the bar. So you can see the strong beat was and then there are pieces where you need to stand. But I do have to say, and I'm sorry to start with, it's such a thing, but it is very, from the minute you walk on stage, you are being watched. I don't want to use the word judged, but you're being watched. And then the minute you start playing, people are listening, but people are absorbing everything. It's what makes it very special. So one thing I think, if I was just sort of between the last lesson and this class, I think sometimes when we start tapping our feet, it's because we're trying to diffuse tension. It's like a good tension diffuser. It's like we're fidgeting. It's our on stage way of fidgeting. And I myself actually do move my feet too, because I mean, conversely, if you lock your legs and you start playing, then just all that tension just ends up going up into the fingers and the bar. But I would say maybe it's indicative of that you're not really, if I just came over and lunged, you would have probably fallen over. So my heated battle, we're in battle. Every moment we're in battle, perhaps greatly our own minds, and our expectations and integrity, and our great wish to bring J.S. Bach back to life in the best manner we can. So what I would say is when you walk out, especially with solo Bach, because there's no like plunking around or pissing around, it's you. It's just you. I would walk out and make sure, greet the audience, and then make sure that first and foremost you're planted on the ground, because we might get into this later, but the playing really, as string players, we deal with these micro details. Millimeters can make or break us. One little slip on that shift, people might say that's really out of tune, just kill the cat with that. But one thing that we need to think of as performers too is that we actually have other muscle groups in our body. It's not just these floating phalanges going around. So honestly, if you're having problems with songing, I would think about your quads. Think about my poor studio this week has been having to squat and do all sorts of yoga-like things. But if your quads are locked, what do you think? What happens next? What's most affected after that? Your back. And what does your back support? Everything. So I mean everything else. So I mean that's maybe why you're sort of, so when you come out, make sure that you're just, I could really just come over, run from over that door, just like lunge at you, and you wouldn't topple over. You would be able to hunker down and be able to have flexibility. Because I swear people don't think about their quads enough. They really don't think about their quads. They don't, because a lot of times orchestral violists, we're orchestral musicians, right? We sit down in chairs all day long, so our quads are usually inactive. But when you're standing and you're a soloist, your quads, you can get tremendous power from your legs. So enough about thighs. What is a form of a prelude? Can you explain what a form is to this?
Form?
Yeah. Well, what does the prelude do in these suites?
As the part of the dance suite, the prelude is just used to introduce the key and the theme of the entire suite. So it's kind of just like improvisation upon the key.
Mm-hmm. And how does J.S. Bach do that?
In this specific one?
Well, in general, actually, all six of the preludes of the minus 5, all of the other 5 suites. How does J.S. Bach what's the compositional form? What does he do? Is there a trademark?
Drawing blank. Oh, it starts on 1.
Well, hopefully it starts on 1. Or what's happening in each one of those preludes?
Establishes the key.
How?
By either the arpeggiating the first chord or a scale.
So it's either arpeggiation or some sort of thing. It's not necessarily a scale, but some sort of lyrical thing. So we have the harmonic suites, which are 1, 4, and 6, and we have the more lyrical suites, which are 2, 3, and 5. 5 is a little bit of an anomaly because it's also doubles as a lute suite, so it's a little bit different than the other cello suites. Bach, being the ultimate composer he was, doesn't need time to have drum rolls or fanfares and flutes. He just says C major scale descending with a little arpeggiation at the end, right? That's it. So that's your improv riff. We're playing jazz, okay? Give me the chart, okay, there's something, okay? Now go with it. So I would say if you're feeling like we all do, I would say every one of you in the room that plays the viola or plays Bach, it's daunting because there's no rev up time. You can't just hang out oh yeah, it's bam, right? It's right off the gate. So what I would say, make your thesis statement as clear as possible, unshakable. It's Arnold it's very, I can't get the quote right, but it's music is only as effective as the audience can remember what they heard. So, if the main thing is said right at the beginning, you need to state it clear as crystal. So, I want you to try it once. Just start with a few different ways from nothing. But I'm not saying you have to land on a low C or anything, but I really want you to just imagine you're starting from nothing. So do it maybe 3 times, 3 different ways. But, and really feel like the real beginning. Do you really feel the phrase? Do you think the audience cares if it's on alto?
No.
No. So don't do that.
Okay.
I think because it's it's his shape. It's a scale descending. It's not a melisma, try it one more time. And really declamatory. I think there's nothing apologetic about that scale. I think it's the key, the shape, what the rhythmic values are 16th notes. These are 16th notes. It's kind of a motor perpetual. It's 2 pages, or how many other pages, of 16th notes. So, da dee 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 ba da ba ba ba. Try it and really make a statement. Why are you rushing to get away from the da dee da ba dee dee da? I know because I'm messing up your bowing. But I think that brings up a very interesting point throughout your performances. Oftentimes, what feels like we need to get on, with it, it's the audience. It didn't sound like anything. If anything, we had more time. So if we're starting off the whole argument, whereas you should have a little bit of statement, because the next 2.5 minutes are all about that scale. Everything that's going to happen is included in that scale, which is the true genius about the composition. It's just scales and arpeggios, but we need to set that up. So I take a little bit more time, really treat it like nobody's ever heard a C major scale in their life. Try not to sing the bow like I did with them. Don't get a little bit of because you're using too much bow. Because it's a little bit tricky, try doing the up bow, but don't have a sort of a Gothic thing. I personally prefer, it's very hard out of context, but I personally prefer that. Because basic things always, I think you always want to make your case to the audience clear. I rather, some things are included, I guess, but in this instance, no. I think it should be very clear. Now, what are these next few shapes? What are they? Are they thesis statement, or what are they? Development? Are they improv? What do you think they are?
I think it's just kind of elaboration on the scale that was just played, because then it comes back and does the scale again.
I agree. And in your performance, I thought you did a nice job of treating things that were sort of elaborations as such. But what I felt sometimes is I didn't really understand when you returned to something that was sort of structurally important. Because we need architecture in Bach. This Bach is not just about emotion. It's math, it's architecture, it's everything. That's what makes it so powerful. It's just universally, perfectly constructed, if you ask me. So I think there was a lot in your prelude, there was a lot of meandering, and some nice time taking. But I didn't really get clear statements. Like, when is the next scale downward? When is that? Sing it once.
From the beginning.
Just sing it. Sing it for them. Sing it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay, so we have riff. Okay. So again, it's just these sort of things that we need to know. Try playing it like that. Because what I think, what loses people in this motor perpetuo, if I keep on saying that, if it goes so quickly like that, if you start taking time, we're kind of like, what? It's Bach is a math guy still. It can work like that because it's so great, but I think it's better if we really keep the shapes very, very clear. So I would anything in this prelude that is sort of improvisatory, I would treat it as such, but I wouldn't try to take too much time. first statement in C major, what happens next? What is these next few bars about?
Sequence.
Yes, sequence. What is the shape of the sequence?
Starts up and goes down.
Sing it. So is that what you just sung was the shape of the sequence, right?
Yes.
And then what does it do?
Does it again.
And then what does it do?
Does it one more time.
Yes. So make sure that we know that. I say to a lot of people, sequencing in Bach is like getting in the car and driving to Goleta. We need to go somewhere, right? So we get in the car and we travel. So if we don't know those are shapes, those are traveling music, we're kind of like, again, it's sort of, is this a riff? Or are we going somewhere? Actually, there is intention. There is direction. So I would not, you know, we can easily just start like looking out the window and we can end up in San Francisco. So, of those three shapes, is there a general harmonic motion? Or, I should rephrase, is there a general shape?
The way I was thinking to either start loudest and come down, or maybe start quietest and come out. And I was saying start out and come down.
Good. Why don't you start right at the beginning of that sequence and do either one of those two? And now what is this? What is this bar? Right here. Sing it. Doesn't have to be a pitch, just a shape.
Oh my gosh, I can't remember it if I sing it.
Yes. So what compositionally, if we're taking, is it a sequence?
No.
Is it a scale like the beginning?
No.
So what do you think it is?
Improvisation.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, I'm out looking at the sun for a minute, like the birds, the trees, it's a beautiful day. You know, oh, I have to go somewhere. So, I mean, I think know in the music which bars are sort of hanging out. It's also, what key are we in?
Just G major.
And what is G major and C major?
The dominant.
Dominant. What do you think that's all about in this prelude?
Moving back to C by the end.
Well, yes, I mean, I think that's the is that the tonic and dominant always are. It's like the sun and the moon, you know, the tides, it's always pulling and pushing, and usually it returns back to the tonic. But it's interesting, we have a bar hanging out in the dominant. So start there, and then I want you to go for, let's just drive down the road a little bit. yes, another sequence, but but was there something in the beginning that came back?
And the downward scale.
Yes, yes, yes. So we need, again, don't just run over that. That's not a mistake. That is, it's to remind us, oh, hey, that's what it was. But, and then you're saying you were sequencing. How are we sequencing?
I'm just fitting upwards this time from the one key to the next.
What is the harmonic rhythm?
It's 2 chords per measure. Oh,
So it's 1 chord for 2 bars?
yes.
Yes, it's important that you know these things because you know with Bach, I'm sorry, I'm really picking this apart, but you know we're responsible not in any particular order for pulse, for the harmonic language, and whatever I would hesitate to call it melodic, but you know the contour, sort of the top contour, whatever you call it, because I guess it's not quite a melody. It's more of a shape, I would say, than a melody. But we're responsible for all 3 of those things. So at any time in this prelude, you really need to know what you're doing with the audience, because this is really not a melody. It's really, when we have the same harmony, we don't really need to iterate it every subdivision. It becomes pedantic to the audience because it's A minor, right? A minor, rolling along. But it's also, imagine, you know, it's kind of the same thing. Like my friend Jeremy Denk's comment, unintended accents are the enemy of music. We should start, some of this music we need to let go. As I said, motor perpetual, right? If we start breaking it down and we don't let the general, the harmonic motion, which I think harmonic rhythm should dictate almost everything. The harmony says basically everything. Talking of violas, I think the harmony really should drive the boat. Not the 16th notes we're going to know are there, and there will be some sort of pulse, right? But the harmonic language of what you're doing should always be, you should always be aware. So, right, start this, right there, in E minor. Sometimes, yes, it takes us, but they kind of roll, right? So I'm until there. So again, move. I know that the bowing's tricky. I know their arpeggiations are a little bit nasty, and depending on who's in third position or, you know, they don't care. They don't care. They want to hear the circle of fifths. So make sure when we're driving, we're not really just sort of, there should be intention. Right now I sense that it's just we're in the car, but we're not really, we don't have intention. So each one of these chords we pass through too are beautiful destinations in themselves. It's not like they're not beautiful. but I think that's what kind of makes it really cool with Bach. It's like, you know, his choice of harmony is not a mistake. It's almost, to me, it's a spiritual thing. It's a journey, what he chooses, because he can go anywhere. He's a guy that you enter a room and there's like 12 doors. And you just go through each one, and they all make sense. But he chooses the right one, always. So if you think about the permutations of how many doors and how many rooms in this piece, there's a lot. But so none of this is happenstance. This is all intentional. So make these understand where you're going. But I mean, I think understand, basically, I guess I should reduce it down. Understand when you're moving and when you're staying. You know, let the music move when it needs to. Because soon, where we've arrived, we have something very special, which is called
The
dominant pedal. Where do you think the dominant pedal came from, Meister Bach?
organ.
Yes. Where, particularly one in the organ?
Pedals.
Yes. So what would they do? What would happen in the dominant pedal?
Put their foot there and not move it.
Put the foot down. Yes, put the foot down. And it's a big put the foot down, because if you put the foot down on a big pipe organ, what's it sound like? It's not like, it's like, you know, it's like, you know, it's huge. I mean, it just envelops you. It's just like, it makes it almost inevitable. I mean, have you ever heard a huge pipe organ in like a small little church? It's glorious. It's glorious. It's very, very, it just kind of goes through you and surrounds you and everything. You know, it's very complete. So you imagine compositionally, when you get to a dominant pedal, it should have that effect. I have to bring up, this is a non perhaps intellectual description of a dominant pedal, but it's by a great musician, Rostropovich, once said that a dominant pedal is like there's a beautiful butterfly flapping around. You take a pin and you stick it through the torso and you pin it to a board. The butterfly is like flapping around. It's like trying to escape. It's trying to escape, but that dominant pedal's pin is stuck in its gut. And so it's swirling all around, but that pedal is stuck in you. And I hate to be so graphic, but in a way, harmonically, it should feel like that. Because it wants to resolve. Its need is to resolve, but it's stuck. Either think about the big foot down or think about the pin. Whatever way you think about it, it's one of the great universal parts of music making. You know, the urge, the need to resolve. It's the basic drama of most music. And in this case, how long do you think he sits on the dominant pedal?
Quite a while.
How long, proportionally of the piece, how long do you think he sits on it?
Good, like, fourth.
Yes, a fourth of the composition is dominant pedal. And I got a little bit lost in here. To me, I think it's like anything. If the dominant pedal is stuck in you, the longer it's stuck in you, the more it hurts. The more it gets intense, the more you want to resolve, the more you want to take the pin out and be free. Okay, so I would pace this. I think we've had the circle of fifths, which is very happy and beautiful. But we get to the dominant pedal, and we don't quite know it at the beginning because we dominant pedal over? Is it over? Yet? Okay, how long does it go?
All the way to basically the end, kind of.
No, let me see. Well, yes. So when you're talking about interpretation, no matter if you're trying to do this more period or not, the whole point is when you reach this dominant pedal, something really massive should happen because it's proportionally a huge chunk of this prelude. And I'm sorry, I'm just like hacking and slashing through it, but it's just you need to build the drama through that. And after that, just one. What is that?
Scale.
Oh, he threw a scale. And which direction is it going? Upward. Oh, that's nice. So, I mean, do you think that's a mistake? No. So he resolves it and then he flips it around. Nice, right? But I mean, these are the small, or actually not so small, these are the details that cannot be overlooked. Because the more you understand shape, and the more you can illustrate to your audience and know yourself what the shapes are and live the shapes, the more they'll get out of the music. Because otherwise it will just feel like 2.5 minutes of noodling, which is beautiful. That's great. But J.S. Bach deserves better. J.S. Bach is the pinnacle of pinnacles in my book. I mean, it doesn't get better. It's just universal music. It's just great, 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 great music. And it has everything. So treat it like that. You know, it's very easy with viola or string instruments or instruments in particular. Oh, it's realistically like this, I will play it like this. And some compositions are idiomatic. You'll hear one later in the class. You'll hear an idiomatic piece. J.S. Bach is not. J.S. Bach is absolute music. And you can play it on a kazoo, you can play it on a MIDI file. It is still, the pitches, as long as they're realized, somehow the music will live. And that's perhaps one of the greatest testaments to composition, right? It will survive, it wins. So I really need you, and I think it will help you in the long run, if we really break it down. Break it down and understand each little component. Because if you really treat them like little friends or something through the music, oh, that's my little friend here. Oh, that's my friend. If you relate to it, it makes it a lot easier than, oh my gosh, I'm standing in front of 100 people. I have Bach, and then my tone and my intonation. Those are abstractions to me. And it's not maybe not to you, but I think the audiences are more of abstractions. Rather than if they hear shape, direction, intention, harmonic feeling, I think they'll get that. One physical thing, I think my quad thing didn't really work. I think you're still sort of locking your legs and sort of, so maybe, I hate to do this in front of, but bend your knees, bend your knees. Better more, better, come on. Like we're in like Jenny Thompson's program, right? We're like doing some squats. Yeah, so actually sit back. Sorry to say it, stick your backside at back and squat. So take all the tension off from your back and put them in your quads. Then feel like you could like go out and row like 10 miles. Okay? Open up the rotator cuff. Start the piece now. Keep on going. turned in, the sound gets brittle. And this is not brittle. Maybe there's some appropriate times in music where you need to bunker in and be intimate. But this music is all about openness and glory. This is C major, C major, Haydn, creation. What happened? What's C major in Haydn's creation?
Creation of, like,
Let there be light. And it's like C major. In the Baroque era, keys mattered. Today, keys are like, oh, my iPhone has all the keys. In that period, keys actually had attributes. So C major is it's the alpha and omega. It should be this. Just the key alone signifies great importance. C major. It's the beginning of creation. Think about it. People have used it for life. It's unoccluded. It's glorious. So play it. I think let the body also mimic that. I know it's a lot of stuff to do. The cellists, they start the first phrase and they get to the open C, it's like rah, and I'm always like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. In transcriptions, I'm not trying to make apologies for the viola, but in transcriptions, we always need to make a case for them, a musical case, rather than say, oh, I'm a violist, I don't have any repertoire, so I'm going to steal something and just, it'll be beautiful. That's not good enough. It has to always be, I am playing this on the viola because I believe in the music, and I will live the music, and I will do justice if it was a cello or was a kazoo or who cares. I will make this piece come alive for you. So I think really and truly capture that essence of this prelude. It should just really be open. And I'm not saying you have to sit on the open C string for like 4 bars and be, gross. But I think just enjoy the keys. The other day Ben played the E flat suite for me, which is really impressive. I think he played it earlier this summer. It was glorious and beautiful. I think he played Bach very beautifully. This is not the E flat. This is not the E flat. Don't think just because it's Bach, it's the same. It's not. The E flat you paced very beautifully. This is a different ball of wax. Again, we're dealing 4-1-6, 4 suite, 6 suite, first suite. Arpeggiations, right? Right? Arpeggiated suites are a little bit different because you can go, again, you follow the harmonic rhythm, and if you shape it in that manner, it sort of works. These ones that I dare say are more lyrical, I think you really have to be committed to the lyricism. You have to be committed to the shapes. And I think this is, it's paralyzing as young artists living today because we just have to turn on the computer and go to YouTube, and we have this wide swath of what J.S. Bach is. We have period J.S. Bach where there's no vibrato, always have to break the chords on the downbeat, the gut strings, the Baroque bow. We have the greats like Casals, who we have to thank for them, who uses so much vibrato. The pitch is very interesting, and I think perfect, in my opinion, but totally not of that style. And we have everything in between. How do you make a decision about how to structure your thought? How? Because in a way, somebody nods and say, he's vibrating. Why did he vibrate? They wouldn't have done it back then. Or somebody's like, he didn't use a Baroque bow. He didn't use gut strings. Or somebody's like, it didn't have enough emotion. There's always going to be opinions about Bach. Bach is one of the most polarizing things. Don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of it. Let Bach win in your own way. That's what I would say to all of the kids here. Really own it. Make it your own. And the struggle finding out how you play it, whether you play it in a more up-to-date style or you try to guess what they did back then. I think it's the pursuit of that where you really start realizing this guy is unbelievable. Little songs like the B minor Mass or something. Little things. This guy really, St. Matthew's Passion, he did something art of few. All those cantatas. How many children? It's just like, how did he have the time? He wasn't in Santa Barbara. He was in Germany in the winter. And there's not a lot of sun. So it's like, how did he have the time? And I think it's been very interesting with Meister McGeegan, because Nick has been just one of the most glorious people that I've ever met. And so he's talking about Bach was a real human being. He liked to drink. He liked to have friends over. You know, he loved life. I think that's perhaps above all what makes him so beautiful. Because it's not like this music we put on a pedestal. It's music that we live with and that speaks after all these years. So really, don't be afraid to incorporate, you know, some bit of vigor, version vigor. I like it. You know, if somebody criticizes you, say, oh, they can call Richard O'Neill and say, he told me to do it. Like, you know, I think it's really, really great. Does somebody have the time, Maurice? Do you have the?
Right after 4.
Yeah. Oh, I'm blabbermouth. I'm sorry, we need to move on.
406.
There it is, Richard.
Oh, I see. Great. Thank you very much. Go on. For those of you that don't know the fairy tale pieces of Schumann, it's 4 characters pieces that Schumann wrote in the 1850s. He had just gotten a prestigious a post in Dusseldorf, and his dear friend Felix Mendelssohn is like, "Don't take that. You're gonna have problems." But he did anyways, and it kind of turned south very quickly, and he ended up being absolutely miserable because by all accounts he was an incompetent conductor, and he was highly, as most of you know, he was highly bipolar, and so from this point onward, the decline was quick, and a couple years later he threw himself in the Rhine, and then 2 years in the asylum. So these pieces are quite something. And in typical Schumann fashion, he doesn't mince words. It's usually one way or the other. And when it's one way, it's just one way. It's sort of obsessive compulsive. And then it'll just snap, and there'll be another way. So in the macro sense, that's what these sort of, the third, the fourth movement are. You have this sort of terrifying, it's marked Bosch, and you just have this sea of these 16th note triplets, and the marking was preeminent bowing. So, not to do too much overlap, but just from, I want you to go back there for a second and just listen to me. I'm going to play this 2 ways, and I want you just to judge which way you think sounds better. Second way. What was the difference between the two?
The second is perhaps more articulate and more resonant.
What was I doing differently between the first and the second?
I guess the one with elbow.
One, it's playing the viola. Come back, Josh. Playing the viola is a little bit counterintuitive. Josh is a relatively new viola player, and with the fiddle, I think it's kind of, with most fiddles, it's just you sort of use the right bow and sort of the right pressure point, contact point, and it zings out. With viola, I feel like it's the best way. You have to coax it. It's kind of like cloudy morning, come out, C string especially. It's sort of like, if one would think, and this is sort of a universal thing that I revisit myself in my own playing. One would think if we raise the rotator cuff and you get ready to we tense up, we're gonna lock our elbow, that we have more power. This sort of, that sort of thing. We're gonna make it happen. It's like that parable of the wind and the sun trying to make the guy take off the coat. You know this parable, one of the Aesop fables. So the wind and the sun are having a bet. There's a guy walking with a coat, and the wind says, "I will blow really hard," and the guy will take off his coat. So he, blows. The guy what he does is he grabs on his coat even more. The sun says, "Just shines." The guy takes off his coat. So it's kind of, in a sense, the same sense when you're playing. We want to get a lot of sound. Sometimes you feel like, I'm going to conquer the viola. I'm going to just make it do what I want. So I'm going to tense my shoulder up and I really, that sort of thing. That's sort of where you get a lot of noise. And I'm sure that sounds very noisy, right? It's really about getting more into the string by letting go. Because we're dealing with vibrating objects. Vibrating objects respond best when you are relaxed. Vibrating objects sense when you're tense because they don't vibrate. You need to also be kind of vibrating in your own sort of way. You have to sort of just go along with it. So I know that your bow, did you get a new bow?
It's a bar.
A bar bow. Maybe it's a little bit of a fresh start, but what I noticed, your shoulder was about here the whole time. It was like elbow, shoulder, no. Drop that shoulder. If I say anything, my years of teaching, it's always this. The right shoulder, the rotator cuff is not powerful. For those of you that go to the gym, you can do 10, 12-pound weights on your shoulders, right? You want to take 100-pound dumbbells and do that? No. You probably tear something, right? Your back, for flies, you can do 100 pounds, right? You can do rows. Your back muscles are much, much, much stronger. They're built for stuff. So don't let the rotator cuff, because it feels good. For those of you that don't play a string instrument, when you raise your rotator cuff, it feels like you're active because you engage the muscle. But what you're actually doing is you're taking away everything that your back would be doing. So the minute I see this shoulder become like this, like Frankenstein shoulders, that means that that's really not good. You really want to keep this, it's a funny thing. I mean, going back, you didn't hear the first part of the class, did you? Sorry, I'm embarrassing. I was squatting like this. The reason why I do this silly squat thing is not because I want to look ridiculous, but it's like when you transfer all of the tension or the responsibility of the back into the quads, all of a sudden your back is elongated and it's free. And your rotator cuff is you have complete mobility of your rotator cuff. And honestly, that's where, I've done this over and over again with people. They sound like 20 times bigger because they're relaxed. This is free. So I know that a natural inclination is, you said, it's hectic. I think it could be less hectic. And in addition to that, sometimes if you're driving down the freeway, you're going really, really, really fast. You're going like 65, 80, somewhere around there. And you look out the window and you see the trees and it's just like blur, right? And it feels like, gosh, I'm moving. Then, if you're driving maybe like in a spacious area, maybe north here, you drive north up to San Francisco, there's like these really nice hills right before you cut in, and you would these really nice, beautiful sort of inland hills. But for a while, you're just driving these beautiful grassy things along the ocean, and you have this long topography. And after a certain point, you don't feel like you're going that fast, right? There's not a lot of context whizzing by you to feel like you're moving fast. I feel like that with fast movements in general. Everything's fast if you look at it like at this thing and then you start spinning around. It's really fast. But if I look at the entire shape, it's not fast at all, it's just a shape. So these bars, if I think of each one of those little triplet things as fast, it is fast. It's like, I can't even sing it, right? It's really fast. But if you think more of like, which is actually what he writes, right? He's, and I think that is what I could have used more of it. It's more of the gesture and the squeeze. And I know it's a really, really tricky thing. It's every piano, every room, every viola, every bow, every person is different. But I think if we all go for what Schumann wanted, which is these sort of like, these nasty growls, these, he writes it in these really nasty things. And typical kind Schumann, he asks the piano to do it. How is it? Can you do a crescendo for me? Can you demonstrate a crescendo? Can you try it again? A trick that my dear friend Horne does is he says lean into it. Hit it, and then lean. So hit it, and then lean into it. Yeah, don't just like press and then retract, thumb, and then lean into the thumb. Yeah, so I give the illusion that it's legato. That's the only way you really can do a crescendo. You see gong, 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 it depresses and it dies. And that's not the shape. And we all know that we can't, it's just an illusion. But I think the more you can make those, try doing it by yourself now and really make these, when it does go from piano to forte, I think this is, typical Schumann, he had two characters. There was Florestan and Eusebius. Florestan was the extrovert, Eusebius was the introvert. You don't really have to guess which one this one is. So I think Florestan he's not apologetic. So the gestures should be big, and they should be quite, he's a romantic. We have to thank him for bringing us, so many things that have ushered in, he was really probably the quintessential romantic, tortured, very interesting. Felt like he was never good enough. Both the player and the composer identify with that, I think. More, just try once by yourself. And really, I'm gonna be shoulder police for a while. Okay, one more technical thing I want to say. I worked with this lovely teacher. She was one of the most amazing teachers, and I came to her at a very, very late stage of her life, so she was already suffering from a lot of short-term memory loss. So lessons were sort of interesting. So what's your name, honey? Richard. What are you gonna play? Walton. That's great. So I played 3 minutes later. What's your name, honey? But the moments of lucidity, I think I learned more than any teacher, probably. I'm not saying I didn't learn a lot from Don, sorry. I learned the most from Don, and Karen taught me a lot about one critical thing, the elbow. The elbow is one of our strongest joints in our body. And it can, as a string player, it can really either help us or hinder us. I think it can either be this ballast weight, there's sort of, the Debbie Downer of our bow arm. It's like always sucking down the arm, or it can be engaged. And it kind of goes along with what I was talking about with the back supporting the bow arm rather than the rotator cuff. If you think the elbow is supported by the rotator cuff, then you're going to really be working hard. But if you think about, it's a really strange thing. The analogy is the handkerchief, the silk handkerchief, and I suspend your elbow. You feel like the elbow is weightless. It's not actually weightless, but it's being held up by the back. But what you're doing right now is you're scrubbing like this, and I would say a disproportionate amount of energy is going down to the ground. It's going into sort of forearm motion, this claw motion. What you really want to do is have the weight in the string, basically bulldoze it in, just let it sink, and for those of you that play 25-1, I mean, you're not doing that, you're in the string already. So a lot of this thing, maybe let's forget that the string and bogan is not there and it's piano. And just really focus on, keep your shoulder down and keep your elbow, I'm sorry to adjust, but keep your elbow, basically this is sort of the storage tank of all the weight. You should feel like your elbow's hanging there at all times, ready to like roll in the energy. Yeah, I'm sorry to touch, but yeah, even more, even feel like it's just, yeah. I don't know how it sounds to you, but I think that sounds a lot more full. It's really when you get the full weight of the arm, you get into the heart of the viola. And that's what's difficult, really getting into the heart of this rather than the surface. I mean, you can really make surface notes, but you really dig. It's almost like digging in the ground. You just have to dig ever so slightly. Slight trick too, if you want, and it doesn't work for everybody, you might want to slightly probate. And not bounce. Almost like little hammers at the beginning of each note, and then pull through. Make sure that you keep the bow moving, because otherwise if you hammer and then if you don't pull, it will squelch the sound. I still think you guys can try at the beginning and really try to scare us. Right now, were you scared at the beginning of this? No, it was very calm and nice, and it was like a nice nightmare. This one to me, it gets me in a weird place when it should be devastating. It should, and I think that's the thing, he always asks us the maximum, just the maximum emotional engagement. So you basically have the little horse gallop before this, the Gangnam style horse gallop, and now you have this, which is sort of like it's unabashedly frightening. So really don't be afraid if you get a little scratch on the middle. I don't be afraid. I think I'd rather have that sacrifice the tone quality and have drama, and vice versa. Maybe smart, look, breathe out, maybe happy. And then elbow, just focus on your elbow this time. Let me try something else. Can you do it like very, very slow up for me, like just ridiculously slow? Now a little bit moderate and now fast. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm trying to keep it as gluey and in the string. Don't worry about piano and forte. Just really just keep concentrated. And when you go up, it should really just be, it should be these sort of really nasty growls. Try it slowly, and just feel these pitches. Feel it. Really, really understand. Use the better. Slow, very slow. Ridiculously slow. Those are weird. Those are really not friendly pitches. Those are weird pitches. So right, that feels friendly. This is not friendly. This is really mean or evil, if I could go that strong. Try it, and really anything that's not diatonic, bring it out. Everything. They're excited that you're getting a little bit thicker. Maybe sing them, there's four songs, you sing them and get away. The one thing I would say about the chamber music aspect, there's the dichotomy of the sort of the rolling triplets, triplet, and bum bum ba ba bum bum. Bum bum ba ba bum ba ba. Don't break it down. Bum bum ba ba bum 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 ba ba bum 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 ba ba bum ba ba. Keep the shapes big, because if it starts sounding like a marching band, it's not good. Bum bum ba ba bum 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 ba ba bum ba ba. And then you have this crescendo. How long is this phrase actually? Yeah, it's pretty, it's kind of like typical him. You know, Schumann, being an obsessive compulsive person he is, I've talked in some of the lessons, you know, his composition style is so unique because he gets fixated on an object, a thing, a shape, and he is just like this, television. And then he'll just snap to something else. And that is what makes it really him. That's when you hear like, you know, I don't know, he has something like the horse rhythm and a lot of the pieces. He has these fixations, and it's really what makes him special. So really keep in these triplets and really keep the shapes big. So your two gestures, actually, this is the viola class, but play your mind one. press it less on the piano, and then really try to make it legato. And lean in, piano. Between those two shakes, which one is more dramatic? That one, right? That one's much more dissonant. So try even more. Piano. And lean into it. Piano. More. And one shake. I know that the bass line in typical Schumann is not that playable. I would rather drop some of the notes and go, I think dum dum ta dum. So maybe can you finger this a little bit more? Dum dum ba ba bum ba. Yeah, don't break that. Don't roll that. Yeah. Yeah. Great. You know, I hate to bring up my friend twice, but Jeremy Denk, you you probably all know Jeremy. He's just, besides being an amazing musician and writer, I mean, he's incredibly funny. But he was talking about like practicing ligeti or something once, and it's like quadruple fortissimo down to the piano. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Hurdle my body onto the keyboard or something? and it's as musicians, a lot of times as composers, we make excuses for ourselves, like, oh, they didn't really mean that. Beethoven, his metronome was broken, or Schumann, oh, he's crazy. He went to the silence, so he really didn't mean that. But my question to you would be, actually, are you sure? Do you really know him? Do you really think these composers were writing abstractions because they were just doing a desk job? No, these people, to me, the people that most all of us in the room that are, here as students or teachers, we've devoted our lives to these people. Really, we have to give them stuff. These are not vanilla flavors. These are real human emotions. So I know I'm talking about your shoulder, your elbow, crescendos, it's not rolling, but the commitment to the music has to be there. This needs to be frightening. So I'm going to leave you with slow practice. Don't go on the freeway when you just your first day of driver's ed. You just really take your time getting. I remember when I first started learning this, I went to my teacher and I was like, are you supposed to be able to hear the notes? And they were like, yes. Because obviously when I first tried it, it was just, realistically, it's really, we're in the worst register. They're kind of going away, and we're scratching away. But I think really, if you get to know not just the individual pitch groups, but the way it feels, it will be much easier because you can transfer the concentration from this hand to just relaxing your arm. Because really, in truth, what I think about now when I perform this, at this stage, is just being relaxed. And getting, what makes it frightening is actually just how relentless it is in the complete phrase, rather than thinking, And for the violist, don't pick up unnecessary fingers. Keep the fingers down that you don't need to pick up. A lot of times what happens is we're picking up all these fingers that just will be playing two notes later. Don't do that. Save the energy, think in the stomach, and then these crescendi should just be wild. Wild. I loved the feeling in the last movement. How did people like the last movement? I think the last movement to me is so him. It's just so, it's heartbreak. It's the sort of Abschied, the goodbye, the farewell thing. And I think you capture that really well. Make sure you that one thing, it's so tricky. Make sure you don't come in early. Yeah. It's a quarter. I think along the lines of playing from the solar plexus, getting down, I think what makes it feel legato, even if you break the bow, is releasing into the. Do you know what she has in her mind? Can you just play her rhythm once? Just listen once. Don't look. could keep that even more lifted. Don't rush into it. That's beautiful. So now on top of that, through the lower six, we talked about this earlier today. How do you think, what color are you trying to achieve, the two of you? The group unified? You could verbalize? What color? Light? And what would you say?
Very warm.
Like this, or fleeting, I think that's perhaps what this sort of, this, we have to unify the sound. Who knows what this really the color is, but it didn't quite sound like the two of you were on the same page. I think in a way, this movement accesses serenity, you know. So I think by that nature, the sort of eternal thing, it just feels very eternal, that provides the color. So you don't have to really get out of the density of the sound. Actually, I think it's quite heartfelt. So I wouldn't mind a little density in the sound. I think maybe if I were to say to Viola, I think you could support it a little bit more. You could play into a sound, especially since you're the upper six and then you jump lower third. That you could kind of almost shade. Actually, just the two of you cut out everything except the primary material between the hands. So no bass line and no inner. Straight out. I think that's gorgeous. Now, can you add the sort of the undulation, but make that shade that much under. It's too loud. I'm sorry, it's too loud. Keep that same beautiful color and everything else. I know it's probably the hardest thing to do on piano, but keep it really soft. Should be filled together. All of you have this beautiful lines together going in and each other. There's sort of these sixths and thirds going in between those two things. And then we have a unison, and then we go back to the third, sixth thing. And then we have a little bit of a departure thing. Now we have a little bit of independent lines and that accent. What is that accent? Tell me what do you think that accent is?
It's more rounded and
Rounded back.
more timing also than actual
And then
point.
actual articulation. Josh, what do you think?
I think it's like a sigh.
Just try that one note together, and then I better move on. But just try that. Just let's incise and just try that once a few times. Really try to capture those two things, maybe. Feel it together.
Right on.
Yeah, right on it. Just feel it. One more time. Just like a singer would do, exhale into it. A singer never goes, and they start singing melody, and then do the accent. So you're in a comfortable place in your body. together, yeah. Right on that accent, the accent. And really, if you say it's a sigh, really sigh. Feel it, a sigh. It's a, Try once a little bit more, really mature once. Mature, just give it a little bit more intensity. That might be a little bit much, and I'm sorry to be nitpicky, but these small little details, this one little accent, sometimes the small little, the devil's in the details. That's really, we need to not overlook that. Because what other sort of articulation mark has there been in the entire first section? There have been these aspirated marks, it's decrescendo, crescendi, decrescendi, but have there been any articulation marks? Yes. So an accent might say something. Always be on the lookout. Always be on the lookout for things in music. Accents and, singers in a way have it very easy because they can just look at the text. They can look at the text if they understand the language, hopefully which everyone does. They can just look at the word. The word has its own inherent flavor, both with the consonants and vowels, and then there's all the sort of the etymology about what the word means. So they can look at it and they can make it the sounds and it makes sense. For us, we're constantly figuring out, what is this? It's definitely not an abstraction. It's definitely a lullaby. But what kind of articulation, what kind of legato, what kind of vibrato, what kind of point of contact am I using? So a lot of times, and this is how I'm going to end this, with German music, music reflects the language it's written in. So German language is just like English. It's guttural. So a lot of times we have consonant, sometimes double consonant vowel, and sometimes even another consonant. So we use a lot of crunch to the notes. So that means as musicians that we have to be concerned with both the beginnings and the ends of the notes. Whereas let's say like French and Italian language, like let's say Italian, perhaps even more, there's a lot of vowel endings, right? So the vowel endings are much more ambiguous, right? So you can be more concerned perhaps with the beginnings of the notes and letting those. But with German music, you really have to dig and figure out what these notes are saying. And it's what makes it really, really complicated to read sometimes, is what are they trying to say? What are they trying to say? But I think that exploration is essential, is because I think actually sometimes there are words, and with string players we didn't know no words, so I can play it. Are they? I think sometimes there can be flavor in articulation, and within the middles of notes, because vowels in all language, to me, vowels are what make them human. That's what the glue of tone. It's just that the vowels are where the expression happens. I think the consonants give color and flavor, but the vowels are where you really become very lyrical. So it's the vowels being the middle of the bow, these long notes, what I'm saying, what are you doing? Is it expanding? What kind of vowel is it? And the beginnings, like articulations like that accent. Is it like a da, or is it a pa, or is it a ta? It's like, think about things like that. Because it really, a lot of times what feels good under our little box of playing, even in this small little room, doesn't go out. They don't get it. When you finish playing, it's like, I felt this. I felt it so deeply. And then people are sort of like, they like it, but it didn't really speak. Sometimes we really have to figure out how to translate what's inside to them. And it often means that we have to be a little bit more clear. I guess that's perhaps maybe the theme of today's clarity to the audience. We really need to birth the piece to them. And a lot of that has to do with how studious we are with pieces. But I really, really enjoyed it. I guess we should move on. Josh, thank you very much. for in this piece. What is there a theme, or is there a melody, or is there something?
This is the beginning, like the opening introduction, but not sure.
Let's ask the audience, what was the theme of this piece? Can anybody sing the theme? Bingo. I think, and as you alluded to, it's perhaps not the clearest thing ever, but I think this opening sequence is not just an introduction. It's not just like pretty chords and full notes and with a few little da-da. It's actually the thematic material. Do you know are there other places in the piece that you can tell me where that comes back, or is that just isolated?
No, I guess it comes back throughout the piece. Here. Well, I'm not sure what I'm sure it comes back.
My dear, the one thing to the audience, I think it's very crucial that we always understand what we're saying, because as a showpiece, I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. It's fun, it's like there's nice colors, it's beautiful sounds, and there's a lot of activity and some sprinkle of virtuosity. But I always try with any composition, no matter if you're playing this or Bach or Schumann, try to figure out what the shape is. Because when we come to a music that's already written, it's what a majority of us do here at the Music Academy, we're recreators. We look at a piece that somebody wrote already. It's a finished product. So we need to get to know it as best we can. It's our job, because we didn't write it. If we wrote it ourselves, we know it really well, but we didn't write it ourselves. So it's our job, just like we get to know people, is let's get to know what this piece is about. And I think one of the basic things I do in all compositions is the opening, the material that's stated at the beginning. Maybe it's not at the very beginning, but the opening material often has the key. So as we've identified, this sort of, just play the line once by yourself. And my dear, when you flip those pages, I'm so afraid like there's gonna be like, I don't know, like, it's like they're very, very loud. It's like a symphony or something. So maybe you want to figure out a way to do photocopies or something, because I don't know how the audience felt, but all of a sudden we're enjoying this beautiful music, like whack, or fly or something. So it's just people are aware of everything when you're on stage. We always want to make them comfortable. We never want to make the audience nervous ever. So just play the opening material. Describe this shape. Is it by the bar, or is it one shape?
Yeah, I think of it as one line, those 4 measures.
What's going on underneath you? That's pretty clear. but what harmonically? What's in the foundation? What's in the basement? Do you know what the notes are?
B flat.
And
B flat. G minor.
and then when we're sitting in an orchestra and like the conductors turn to the violins and they're practicing all this stuff, and we're like, oh gosh, why the violins? More time with the violins, or like they should turn to the cellos, like the organs, like, oh gosh, with the cellos, and then we're like violas, we're like, I already know what they have, I've been listening, because viols, we're stuck in the middle, we're always like, and our parts are supportive, right, in orchestra mostly. We have some moments where we emerge, but a lot of times we're the filler, ripieni. We fill in the texture. So I think as people, usually we're attracted to filling in harmony. But in this instance, as a sonata partner, you're not filling in melody particularly. You're actually perhaps the primary voice in the sonata. So it's a little bit of a different mindset. And I always like to say this, the wonderful Heidi Kassman was here at the beginning of the summer, and a lot of her methodology is about singing as we play. We should sing because it's a vocal instrument. We play a sound instrument. The viola is a sound instrument. I'd like to add, what makes that possible is knowing what's in the basement at all times. Meaning the foundation, the ground. Just do that first line, because I think there's poetry. There's real poetry between the first two phrases. And it has a lot to do, not so much with your notes, because si, sol, re, mi, fa, kind of pedestrian. Si, sol, re, mi, la. Okay, there's one little change, right? But what makes it special? Do it with the piano once and really, really see what your relationship to the piano is. Some of the violists and maybe 5 people. So the rest of the people have never heard this. So really, it's important. An exercise I really like to do to see if I really know a sonata is when I'm playing it, I like to sing the bass line. Because perhaps I can sing the bass line, but I like to know at all times what I'm related to. Because if we don't listen downward, we really don't know what's going on. Because downward is where everything is really structured. It's the foundation of what we're playing. I just like to add, because I've been blabbing too much today. Ba-bum, bum, 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 ba, 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 dee, da, da, da. What's that? Thematically. Not pitches, devoid of pitches. What's da, dee, da, dee? Oh, where have I heard that scale going down before? See, composers think like this. I mean, maybe not perhaps as deep as Johannes Brahms, but if you're sitting down in a cafe writing a piece, you probably come up with a general idea, and then you would permutate that. There would be permutations of that idea, not only in the melodic content, but in all areas of the piece. Because the famous Schoenberg quote, music is only as effective as people can remember, right? You don't have to necessarily spell it out black and white, but what gives us meaning in pieces is when things come back. And sometimes they come back just like people and they're transformed, or they develop. Or sometimes they're really changed. There's something really interesting, or sometimes we lose things and they come back. It's that sort of thing we really need to know. Is there any other large section that's a little bit more apparent than that, where that descending scale comes back? Perhaps not that. That to me is more developmental. What happens right after is that familiar? Da, da, da. Actually, it's rhythmically the same. It's not even permutated. It's rhythmically the same. And it's developed. So make sure, when we have things like this in the music, that that you know it, that you own it and you know it, but also that the audience knows, oh, it's coming back from the beginning, because it's important to them. I mean, we need a sort of a discourse. We have, it's like they give us their trust that we will give them the music, but we should in return show them the way, I think, of what and we should understand that meaning. It doesn't have to be pedantic, but we should understand that these shapes are not abstractions. And in this world of U-Tom sonata, that shape is really important. What do you think is what is the return, perhaps what is the pinnacle, the apex of this movement?
Just getting into
What's that?
the
Ba, 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 ba.
uh,
Why do you think that's happenstance? It's the climax, and what key is it in? What's it alluding to at least?
F sharp.
Well, it could, or B, A sharp, G, F sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp.
Sorry. A major.
I think correct me if I'm wrong, this B major. Da, di, da, da, di, da, 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 da. It's so, I'm sorry to be pedantic, but B major. B major, okay, abstraction. What key is this piece written in?
B flat.
Oh, so B flat major and B major. What's the difference?
One is B flat.
Yes. But in harmonic terms, so if you were to sit down at the piano and like say, this is if we have like sort of, are those two things equal? No. Because they're so close, actually, they're kind of really far. Because harmonically, it's like taking the foundation of this building and picking up with the crane. It's like you're moving you're shifting up the whole harmonic structure one half step, which it should be really close because it's almost tonic, but it's not. So harmonically, he's using the key and he's using the shape. So what we need to know from the audience, which I think would have been really great for the audience, is if when you got to the ba, pa, 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 dee, that we would feel like it would be some that related to that. And I'm sorry to be Mr. Theory Lesson, but I think these things are crucial. Because it's not, idiomatic writing is fine, but I think if we treat this music like real people, like we're getting to know people, that they have infinite layers of complexity and simplicity, and that we can have feelings towards them. Maybe we like them at the first, maybe we stop liking them. Maybe we don't like them at the beginning, and then as we get to know them, we grow with them. But whatever your relationship to the repertoire you're working on, get to know it like it's the best piece in the world, that it means everything to you. Because when you get on stage, under pressure, people can see when you've invested. It's like anything in life. If you don't invest in things, people can read when you don't care. And I'm not saying you don't care. Actually, I think you care very much. But care more. This music is worth it. And in your time with the audience, it's a gift. So we want to give them the best recreation possible. And the best way to give them the best recreation possible is to absorb it, live it. Get to know it. Don't be afraid to go around to your meals with the scores and look at shapes. Just look, it's a very basic thing. All you have to do is like, take the piano, there's a shape. Where does it come back? Or just try to find what the form is. Because if we don't do that, it's basically like getting on the freeway and having no napping. Knowing that somewhere, I'm gonna get on the 101 and I'll end up in San Francisco. But it's like just kind of trusting that the freeway will take us there. But the journey I might argue, is the most important thing. That journey, the development of the material. It's really what gives them deep meaning. Otherwise, it can border on just beautiful playing. And beautiful playing is in itself beautiful. But I think music can be much, much more. So, right here, just take a look at it. Because it may seem simple on the outside, but just have to dig a little bit and you find things always. For those of you that are free tonight, we're doing the 6th Brandenburg, and Jenny's been the most wonderful partner in 6. So you're free to try to join us tonight. And thank you very much for sticking around for my Bible.